mediator is sort of like a referee in a hockey game. He or she is not there to judge the case, but just try and be a facilitator to bring the two sides closer and closer to try and settle their case on a fair and reasonable basis according to what the law is here in Alberta.
If you file an injury claim in Alberta, does that mean you have to go to trial? We're going to talk to lawyer Steve Grover about that on today's episode of Ask the Lawyer. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me again. Hope you're doing well too.
Thank you. Many people might not realize that throughout Alberta, if you have an injury claim, you actually have to go to mandatory mediation first. Can you explain the mediation before trial process to us?
Yeah, I mean, in Alberta for the last 10 plus years, we do have a mandatory mediation rule, which requires you to go to mediation in good faith to try and settle your case before the courts will give you a trial date. Mediation is sort of like a settlement meeting where myself, plaintiff counsel shows up with my client, defense counsel show up with their adjuster who has authority to sign the check if we come to some kind of settlement. And then the mediator is sort of like a referee in a hockey game. He or she is not there to judge the case, but just try and be a facilitator to bring the two sides closer and closer to try and settle their case on a fair and reasonable basis according to what the law is here in Alberta.
You touched a little bit about the process, but can you tell us, do people have to have attorneys with them? Can they go it alone when they're going to mediation?
Well, I mean, first of all, if you're going to file an injury claim in Alberta against a big bad insurance company, I would recommend number one, having a lawyer. You can do it for free, or you can hire a lawyer like myself, and we charge a contingency fee, which means we work for free. You don't pay us anything up front. At the end, we take 30% of the proceeds that we get from the insurance company. Yeah, people can go to mediation on their own, but the thing is, it's sort of like if the doctor says, hey, you got an appendix and it's going to burst if we don't do the surgery tomorrow. Are you going to go home and, take out a butter knife and try and take out your appendix yourself? Probably not. I mean, I would recommend that, hire a lawyer, get an expert in your side that knows the litigation steps and knows how to present your case properly. But yeah, you can do a mediation, so sort of like a self-rep person in court, but I don't recommend it.
Can you tell us a little bit about the mediator's role? Who is the mediator? Is it a judge, an attorney, and do they make decisions for the party?
A mediator nowadays is, in the old days when mediation was first coming up, was usually lawyers, especially lawyers that have done insurance claims, like represented an insurance company like Allstate, or plaintiff counsel, which represented injured people like myself. Over time, it's evolved where now we do have a number of former judges that have stepped down and retired from the Court of Queen's Bench in Alberta, and they have taken on the role as mediator. And, it sort of helps when you do have a former judge as a mediator, because he or she can tell my client and the other side exactly where we would stand if this case was heard in the courthouse. But usually mediators are people that are lawyers and former lawyers or former judges, and they take certain courses, either like you can take a master's of law in mediation, or you can take a bunch of certificate courses to be certified as a mediator. So they're pretty qualified in what they're doing as a mediator when we hire a mediator for a case.
Can you explain the theory behind the negotiations that most mediators use to bring the parties together? And do you think that mediation, is it worthwhile?
Yeah. It's sort of like, going back to law school. And, when I went to law school, it was like the mid to late 80s. And mediation was just a new form of alternative resolution that was developing. And we took a course on it. No one really took it seriously because, hey, we want to go to trial. The courts have changed where they're, actually, recommending go to mediation, and there's mandatory mediation in Alberta. Most mediators are trained, and it's got to be a win-win kind of situation where both parties have to be reasonable. They have to give up positions to get a resolution. If it's all or nothing, it's not going to work at a mediation. So, I mean, most mediators say at the outset of a mediation, hey, if we come to a resolution today, you're probably not happy and the other side's probably not happy. Therefore, that tells me that, both sides have given up positions, but it's come to a reasonable resolution where we can settle your claim on both sides and you can move on with your life.
Yeah, that kind of bleeds into my next question. In an injury claim, if someone is not satisfied with settlement negotiations in mediation, then what happens?
Well, I mean, fortunately, we have binding mediation or ADR, and we have non-binding mediation. Essentially, both parties will go to mediation and say, okay, we're going to come in good faith. And the court expects you to come in good faith to try and resolve the claim on a fair and reasonable basis according to what the case is worth. But if you don't like the situation and you don't like what's being presented, you can always walk away. I mean, and the good thing about mediation is it's all on a without prejudice basis. And, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So whatever is raised at the mediation can't be produced at trial or raised because it's all on the without prejudice basis. So that's the good thing about mediation. There is an ability to walk away and then press your case to trial. But mostly in my legal practice, about 80 to 85% of the claims do resolve at mediation. So I think it's a good step to take to try and resolve your claim.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like it. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for your time and hope you have a great day.
Thank you, you too. And that's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been Steve Grover. If you want to ask him a question about your situation, you can call the number on your screen. Thanks for watching. I'm Molly Hendrickson for Ask the Lawyers.